Hello, my name is Cleo Bonny Zamadunga from Africa, from the universe, from Malawi. I'm a student for international relations. I'm doing honors. I got my first degree and now I'm doing my second degree. I would like to read, and I love reading. I have been reading for over so many years. Everybody else does, I think, in the world. You read from the Facebook, Twitter, online, items. I'd like to read a book instead. Russia, under the Caesar. Every day I have to read. In the evening, before I go to bed, I have to read. In the morning when I wake up, I have to read. I love reading. Therefore, I'm going to read chapter 2 because chapter 1 was read yesterday. The House of Rulik. Reading is not natural. It's something that you have to force yourself to read every day. I just told you I'm gonna read. Now I'm scratching my nose, I'm scratching my eye, I'm scratching my nose, scratching my chin, scratching here, there. That's what happens when you want to read. Each time you're about to read, that's what happens most of the time. The House of Rulik, among the first men to live on Russia soil were the Slavs. These fair-haired peoples of obscure origin began spreading over the steppes through the northern forest. From the river basins northeast of the Carpathian Mountains came the 1st century AD. They preferred farming to fighting, but there were many strange and savage tribes, as ferocious as the Slavs were peaceable, who contested their fields. Sharp, primitive battles ensued, followed by periods of peace in which the slave strain there was intermixed with the blood of others. The Russians who enjoyed life under the Caesar and the Russians of today were the result. The Holodas records the earliest blending of various Russian forebears. The Scythians, he says, discovered one day that the armored soldiers of the invading Samaritans from Persia were girls, unwilling to fight women. They sent one of their handsomest young men to await an enemy scout. When one rode up, the Scythians were youth, indicated by Sanskrit that he was unarmed and wanted to be friendly. And when they parted, the Samaritan girl indicated that if the Scythian would return tomorrow with a friend, she would bring one too. I will show you pictures. Look at the pictures before I can lose concentration. It's easy to lose concentration when you're reading. Easy. Something else, a phone can ring, somebody can call you on your phone, somebody can scream outside. Perhaps you're not sitting properly where you are sitting. There's a picture this side, don't worry about it. Out of the centuries, long furries of reeling horses and savage cries of flashing swords and falling heads emerged Russia's first civilization, that of the Kazakh. So the Kazakh, there was a civilization that was brought by these Kazakhs, and something that I'm learning from reading these materials. A conglomeration of remnants of Huns, Bulgars, Turks, and Kazakhs moved in on the hills of the Avars. In the 7th century began settlings of the shores of the Black Caspian and Azovi seas in the region between the Don, Volga's rivers. Battling their mottos, nomadic ancestors, they ruled the Slavs with a mild hand. On the lower Volga, they built their capital city, Etel, from which they exported furs, hides, fish, honey, wax, slaves, down rivers to the Constantinople in exchange for wines, spices, brocaded silks, and jewelries. Imagine those years. It's not like these days that you have to sell a computer, a cell phone, cars. Instead, people are selling spices around the world. to their neighbors, fishing, which is not bad because we have to eat fish. I like the part of jewelries because I love jewelries. Wine as well. Okay, they won a reputation for treating all men fairly. When the Christian emperor Leo III expelled the Jews from Constantinople in 721, the Khazars welcomed the refugees. Later, after hearing the arguments of Christian, Muslims, and Jewish sages, the Khazars kings and his court adopted Judaism. But they allowed all citizens to follow whatever faith they preferred. The Khazars grew so important that Emperor Constantine V of Byzantium married a Khazars princess, and their son became Byzantinian's emperor. And so broad was the Khazar domain that it extended all the way to the slave town of Kiev, Kiev still exists to this day. Kiev is where many troubles and conflict are taking place currently. Far to the west, the right bank of the rivers Dnieper, in the fertile region of the southwestern Russia that is now called the Ukraine, a name which means borderland. From the disintegration of Khazarian, Kiev was to survive, to become one of the foundation stones of the modern Russia. So you can see the connection between Russia and Ukraine, and that's why Russian government would not want to lose in the territory that once was part of Russia. As you can hear, the stuff that I'm reading, the evidence is here. So for a student of international relations, this is very important. That is why the student of international relations should read all the time the newspapers, the magazines, and the stuff on the internet as well. Books. You have to read everything that's in archive so that you learn about countries. But reading culture is not only for students of international relations, is across the board. The president should read, the deputy president should read, the cabinet should read, the mother should read, the teacher should read, the principal of the school should read, the rector of the university should read, the vice chancellor, the chancellors should read, the patient should read, disabled person should read. Every person across the world, whether young, old, whatever the case might be, should read. Look at the buildings. It's something that we are learning about the old Russia. Here you are. All right, here we are. Then according to the ancient Russia Chronicle, around 859, the slaves of Novgorod revolted against the Vikings who were in the service of the city, drove them out. The result was chaos. After the revolt, the Chronicle records there was no law among them, and they began to war against one another. They said to themselves, "Let us seek a prince who may rule over us according to the law." So they went overseas to the Varangian races, said, "Our land is great and rich. There is no old in it. Come to rule, reign on us." That's just so amazing, right? People would fight one another to look for a leadership. Probably that's what is happening in many other countries around the world. People are fighting each other. Civil wars. One nation fighting another nation, one country fighting another country, or a state, either way. So I guess that's what happens. In the family, it's the same thing. People would be fighting all the time because there's a lack of leadership. Something to learn. Is that so? By our land, they meant most of the region, and that came to be known as Kievan Rus. See, you can also look at the map on the page 40 of this book. They called it the Norsemen, Varangians, from the Norse word Varingja, which means son men, a band of 100 or so who saw obedience to a leader. Why they called them races is debatable. Some historians trace the word ras to the Finnish rots for rowers. Others say it derives from the Rockies, the name of an island clan. In any case, the Chronicle says that our land was so troubled that the Norse adventurers who were invited to rule Novgorod agreed only with a reluctance. Rolik the Nosgig chieftain stayed in Novaragi, became its prince. The house of Rolik was to reign over Russia until 1598. Its Norse origin completely submerged by Russianism. What? Amazing, isn't it? There was a Russianism. Ruling died in 879, and his kinsman Olegi taking power until Rulik's infant son Egil could grow up, sailed down the rivers to Kivi. He lured Askold and Dara, two Swedes who ruled the town, into his boat, killed them, made himself Kivi's grand prince. But like the grand princes who came after him, he did not sit in a throne in a regal robes, administering justice, distributing largesse. These forerunners of the Caesars, Kivi's early-nosed princes, strutted horses in a warrior garb, waved lances instead of scepters, with their bodyguards of free-boating boyars, knights. They exacted rich tribute as they traveled from settlement to settlement, amassing goods to ship. Constantinople. You ever heard about Constantinople? Dark pictures, very dark. These are pictures that you can't see properly because they're not colorful. And these days, anything that is not colorful, I don't know. There's another picture there. I don't know what it says, but it's a picture of civilization. Came to uncoveted Kivu from Constantinople. Below is a Kivu princess is shown being converted to Christianity. What? Are you serious? The princess of Kivu was converted to Christianity amid Byzantine riches. At the right is a jeweled, far-trimmed head alleged to have belonged to the last great ruler of Kiev, Vlada Monokavi. There you have it. There you have it. Okay, let's read. Though Constantinople was a good customer, the Grand Princes repeatedly attacked her, and on at least one occasion fled in terror when the city's defenders sprayed them with Greek fire. Forerunner of Napan, the flamethrower, Siatosilavi. There you go. Some of the words that you're not familiar with, you cannot even be able to pronounce them. Or you cannot pronounce them. You cannot say you cannot be able. Able and can is almost the same thing. So you can say you cannot, or you're not able to pronounce the words. English, you can't say I can be able, or I may perhaps. Those are two words meaning almost the same thing. So use one of the words. Also sacked the Khazars' capital for Itil, which was still a rival for the Constantinople trade, and twice he invaded Bulgaria, the land where the Fiasco Bulgars had settled. Constantinople was able to control the Kievan princes by treaty by granting them certain privileges when they came to trade. Sviatoslav, like his father, died in the saddle, bound home to Kiev in 972. After having been expelled from Bulgaria, he was ambushed by Bachevniks, another savage, that word I can't pronounce it, nomadic tribe that erupted the steppes. In a Scythian fashion, Pochenevi's princes made gilded drinking cup of Sviatoslava's skull. Funny words to pronounce, though. It was under the leadership of Rulik's great-grandson Vandasko that Kiev emerged into civilization. Vladimir was the last fellow who acquired several official and 800 unofficial wives. What? Let me read that again. And that's what happens. Sometimes we repeat the same thing because we want to understand. Something has just attracted us to repeat. It was under the leadership of Rulik's great-grandson. The great-grandson, his name was Vandamar, that Kiev emerged into civilization. Vandamar was the last fellow. Lastly, somebody who loved the sex. Fellow who acquired several official and 800 unofficial wives. That's close to 1,000. This person, how was he sleeping with every one of them? Never mind, that's not my business. He hunted, feasted, and slaughtered Christians, all with equal zest. So he killed the Christians. Amazing. Then, under the influence of Byzantium, he adopted Christianity and had himself and his people, whether they liked it or not, baptized in the Greek Orthodox faith. He imported the priest, made education, the first education that Russia had known, compulsory for the sons of the priest and boys. Churches arose. Vladimir taxed the people to support them. When a German bishop visited Kiev shortly before Vandal's death, he reported that the city boasted 400 churches in the eight markets. Another tourist, Adam Bremen, likened Kiev to that of shining glory of the East, Constantinople. Most important of all, two Greek Orthodox missionaries brothers, Cyril and Methodius, devised an alphabet, the Cyrillic, which gave the Slavs their first written language, permitted them to read the scriptures without learning Greek. That's amazing. Vladimir killed Christians. He married 800 wives unofficially. He had several other wives as well. This is interesting. And he slaughtered Christians. But later on, amazingly, Vladimir, after slaughtering Christians, he converted himself to Christianity. So he became a Christian after he killed close to 1,000, after he killed a lot of them. This is just amazing. And the same guy that was bad, he brought same guy that slaughtered, Christians and converted himself to Christianity, made education compulsory, and made every boy and forced every boy to go to school. Interesting. You see how I correct myself when I'm speaking to you, and I'm trying to communicate with you guys. It is very interesting. English is not my language. As I said that I speak South African Black English mixed with Malawian Black English. That's why my English is not so good, but I try my best, and I'm gonna try to make you guys understand me. For ordinary men who before the days of Vladimir had lived a little better than 100 beasts of the steppe and forest, life became good, and the countryside free peasants farmed their own lands. Prisoners of war, bankrupts, and offenders against law, who tilted the boyars' estates as slaves, could become free. In the cities and towns, and artisans prospered. No man's place in society was fixed by his birth. The industrious craftsmen who became well-off member of the middle class, the shrewd peasant of landowners, even a boyar. A primitive democracy began taking shape in the institution called the Veche, which resembled an English parish meeting. In a purpose, if not in Dokkaram, in all the cities of Kiev and Ras, the Veches, comprised of adults, free males gathered in the main square at the clang of the bell to vote on civic affairs. The Veches became so important later on that they sometimes rejected princes and dictated contract terms to those whom they accepted. Kiev and Ras was almost a land of liberty. So now you see, we learn about other countries, how they became rich, how they became wealth, how they prospered. And this is how it happened in Russia. Sorry, just trying to be fun. Yeah, well, pictures again. Oh, I'm done. I'm through. Thank you. I hope you guys listened and watched this video. If you didn't, click the button, play, and watch, and leave your comment. I'm gonna do lots of videos of the reading culture. For the very first time, thank you very much. I want to encourage you, all of you, to read. If your reading is not one of your cup of tea, then what you do, you listen to me, you read with me quietly. You listen to me. Thank you very much. It was wonderful. I enjoyed it. Goodbye.